It's a quite young brand. It's only been founded back in 2004, so we're now what, 6, 8, 9 years of existence, and started really in 2007 when we decided to basically integrate physical material or materialized elements of the history of human mankind into watches. Meaning that when we started the company, we said, okay, we can either do like most of the other brands, trying to buy an old brand and revive it, trying to gap history by telling stories, or say, okay, we're a young, new brand, so let's do something new, iconoclastic, let's think out of the box and be innovative. We said, okay, what people still are very sensitive to emotions, to story, to the storytelling. So we said, okay, we don't have history, but we can go and get physical history and put it on the wrist. We started with obviously the first year not a lot of watches. In 2007, I think the first year was maybe 80, 90 watches. Last year we made close to 3,000, so it's been quite strong growth. I would say we're one of the very few watch companies that managed to do growth over the last 6, 7 years. Knowing that 2008-9 was quite difficult, we almost went through without any impact and even managed to generate growth over the last few years. Having said this, that was the first legend, the Titanic legend, what we call the sea legend, because obviously it's relative to the sea. And since then we have been developing other legends. The second was the moon, because as much as the Titanic is polarizing, as much as everybody likes the moon, there's nothing negative about the moon. Everybody dreams, every man dreams about going to the moon. It's the biggest achievement of human mankind, and we managed to buy pieces of Apollo 11 aircraft in auctions and a piece of real physical moon stone, in the sense not a meteorite or whatever, a piece that was physically on the moon and that was brought down. It's smaller than what I showed, but I won't show the size. We obviously had to smash it into sand to try to get a maximum, because it was very, very expensive. We applied this into dials, melted it into silver, in order to have each and every watch with a piece of moon dust and a piece of Apollo 11 aircraft in the cases. So that was the second legend, and around this we had different executions: Moon Invader, Moon Orbiter, Moon Fighter, different kind of products. Then we launched our first, that's what we call the Air Legend, and then we launched our two first Earth Legends. The first one was the Icelandic volcano, Eyjafjallajökull, and we added last year for another Earth Legend with watches that incorporate elements of the Statue of Liberty. Well, we started a little bit in the sense that we started off obviously with very materialized legends, but we also noticed that the human factor is very important. And I would say the first real one we did was a cooperation with a contemporary artist. Was the most influential Swiss contemporary artist, actually the watch I wear. The good thing is it only exists once. So basically I did a watch just for me. It's one of his iconic artworks, and this is a unique watch, only exists once, and I did it for myself. And we just launched a month ago our first cooperation with, I would say, the most famous watch designer, which is Eric Giroux, and one of the most famous, and if not the most famous or most prolific watchmaker, which is Jean-Marc Pideres from Ageno, which we call the spacecraft. So this very retrofuturistic watch, and I think the human factor is getting more and more also into the brand. But it's a logical evolution. You know, watchmaking at the end is all about emotions. Well, you see, I always believe that I'm not a big fan of testimonials, you know. I'm not a big fan of stars and that endorse a product. If people don't like it and they're paid to endorse, there's no genuinity, there's no emotion, and you can sense this. And the more brand hasn't anything to tell, the more they use testimonial to talk for them. I think we're a brand that has a lot to tell. We're a brand that is very genuine. We're a brand that doesn't necessarily need people to endorse. I'd rather have somebody And we do have a few very famous people in the world that own or bought Romain Jerome, and I like the idea that they buy it, not like they offer it, and that shows that they're genuine. That shows that really like what we do. I mean, we have a lot of soccer players. You can see Ronaldo here and there running around with a Romain Jerome watch, although he's a testimonial for other watch brands. But you have, and I think that kind of thing is for me very important, because that's true. That means it's true value. It's not just marketed values. It's a very dynamic market in the sense that it changes quite a lot. We have seen political, economical, social impacts changing a little bit in the Middle East. Nevertheless, it's our main market because it's our historical market. It's a market where we do quite nice performance. We're developing quite well in Dubai and now also in Abu Dhabi. Oman is a pretty good market for us. We just started to develop ourselves a bit more in Saudi. We're obviously present in Qatar, in Kuwait. We just opened again Egypt. The last 2 years were quite problematic, but the market is coming back. So I would say Middle East, which accounts around 20% of our turnover, is strategically a very important market, but nevertheless it's also to a certain extent an unstable market. I mean, we see what's happening. If it comes to the Levant, for instance, we used to be very good in Syria. Syria obviously is a market that is non-existing anymore today, so you have to adapt. But we can sense that in the mentality of the people from the Middle East, they like the product, they like something that is different, they like something that is a bit bold and that has identity and strength, and I think that's what we offer. Obviously, a big part of our consumers or customers are collectors, because that's the early adopters, that's the people who are sensitive, that's the people who look into what's coming, following up, and they're obviously the first to buy. But I can say that we have the advantage that we're probably one of the high-end watch brands that has the youngest customer base, the youngest followership. Obviously, by creating watches around video games or elements like this, you talk to a younger public. Most of our customers are young, hedonistic, male, mostly male, and they like a bold product. They like a product that has a statement, that has a personality. It's not an understated product. It's not something that you hide. It's something that you show. It's something that you talk about. And most of our customers like the idea that when they wear a piece of let's say, Titanic on the wrist, it's something to talk. It's not unless like any other watch. You can say, okay, you have a nice XYZ, okay, but what do you want to tell more about it? Okay, you can then say, oh, you have a nice movement, it's a nice complication, but there's no brand where you can say, hey, there's physical material of the Titanic, or there's physical material from the moon, there's elements of Apollo 11, and I think this makes the brand very attractive, but also, therefore, goes for a customer that has personality. I used to smoke a lot of cigarettes to start with, and I stopped. And because you know, it's like with everything in life, you'd rather go for quality than quantity. And I started to smoke a few cigars here and there, and enjoying it. But for me, it's like a ceremonial. You know, it's a ceremonial for important moments. So I keep that for a few moments in the year, which are important for me.